People on social media are reacting to a member of the House of Representatives, the Honorable Kabiru May Palace, and his alleged decision to launch a rehabilitation of cemeteries in Gusau and Shafe local governments in Zamfara state. In pictures reposted on X by the lawmaker, a user notes a cemetery renovation project with the Honorable May Palace present to ensure the project's progress. Another post on the lawmaker's account shared these pictures, saying that the lawmaker visited this cemetery to encourage the people working on the cemetery's renovation. But in a post on X this morning, Kabiru denies saying he is fixing 80 cemeteries in his local government area, saying, "In my constituency, both Gusau and Shafe have not had more than 20 cemeteries. Where did you get 80 cemeteries? Where did I write or mention this as my constituency project?"
Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, Telecast TV. I'm Mira Kwangala. You're watching a conversation about people's reaction on social media about the Honorable Kabiru May Palace and his alleged decision to launch a rehabilitation of cemeteries in Gusau and Shafe local government in Zamfara state. The Zamfara Lawmaker denies commentaries about renovation projects in cemeteries. Secondly, the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Benjamin Kalu, encourages women to be united as representatives to prepare to vote on the reserve bill seat. This is a bill that wants to increase women representation in National and State House of Assembly by carving out dedicated seats for women in the government. Thirdly, Dr. Doyin Abiola, who passed away at the age of 82, a media icon, the first Nigerian woman to become an editor of National Nigerian newspaper. Lastly, anniversary of the 1996 Super Eagles Olympic gold. Nigeria became the first ever African country to win football gold at the Olympics, to beat out Argentina and Brazil. Endeavor to watch to the end. Don't forget to hit that notification bell, subscribe, like, comment, and share your thoughts. Don't miss trending videos.
It comes after a lot of backlash to the possibility of funding this cemetery renovation project, with one user saying, so he prefers to benefit the dead more than the living, despite the hunger and insecurity in the state. Another tweet saying, why not the hospitals and schools? One final user says, 80 cemeteries renovated in just one zone of a state that has 3 or more such zones. Truly, people in Zamfara are dying from hunger and insecurity. So I think, the reason why we're bringing the story to you today is because this lawmaker this morning is refuting these claims that he launched this renovation of 80 cemeteries. But Rufai, and I'll put this to you, the conversation around whether he did or he didn't goes to show just how much people are invested in what their representatives are or aren't doing in their government areas.
Oh yes, because that's the closest to the people. And you see, that's why I've always said this constituency project thing is a sham. What's my reference point? ICPC did a report about 4 years ago where they discovered that most of the so-called constituency projects were sham. During COVID-19, you remember, people stormed homes of these lawmakers and they looted this constituency project that was supposed to be for the people. They just store these things in their warehouses. This year alone, budgets did a report saying over 11,000 constituency projects were highlighted. They were going to cost over 6 trillion. There were a lot of phony projects there. Some people have even argued that some lawmakers get billions in these constituency projects. To do what? To fix cemeteries. Sorry, did he say the picture is AI? Can the producer show the picture again?
No, it's not AI. I think he was...
No. FEMA, where? FEMA. FEMA, where? Show me the picture again, please.
From his X profile this morning.
So let's see the project. FEMA, where? I cannot see a project citation there, in all fairness to him, where it has anything to do with graveyard. Though. So, but the graveyard of people is not supposed to be the concern of constituency lawmakers. But in all fairness to him, I've not seen a project disposition that shows that they were fixing graveyards. I don't know. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't have facts, I don't like to say. But the disposition is supposed to be the impact in the lives of the people. You've talked about schools. See, over 80, close to 80% of the primary healthcare center in this country are in a terrible position. Schools, equally worse off. Insecurity is so rife. 150 people were collectively kidnapped in Zamfara. They are negotiating their release as we speak. So you can see the kind of play that goes on. And that's why I've totally been against this constitution. There's no how the lawmakers are. I believe what they should do is, you can still have that money, but set up an impact mechanism in this committee where the people in the committee or the communities vote. We can even start it with a website or something where people in 774 local government and communities, towns of communities in Nigeria, they can vote on the projects they want, and the impact committee will put a scale of preference to the project and get them done, rather than constituency prayer and you funnel it through a lawmaker. I have never always been in support of that, and I'll never be.
Okay, a footnote on the place of cemeteries. Cemeteries are, what do they call it? Social space, which construct part of the history of the community. Now, cemeteries are a place of rest for the dead. And I think as part of the historiography of every basic community, cemeteries, in fact, should be taken care of. So although the lawmaker may say, well, I'm not doing constituency project in the cemetery, we should remind ourselves that the dead are part of the community of the living. Now, many years ago, 35 years ago, I wrote a PhD thesis, 36 years ago. I wrote a PhD thesis. One of the chapters was on thanatomimesis. So I had to do a lot of research into death and dying and places of burial and all of that. And I think that it's nothing to be ashamed of if you say, okay, you are trying to, take care of the dead. In some other societies, the space between the living and the dead, they are merged. That's why people go to cemeteries abroad and they are going there, to have picnic, to read books and all of that, because it's part of the construction of memory, part of the process of a community's remembrance structure. So it's nothing to be ashamed of. If he has not done projects in the cemetery, he may consider it, or other lawmakers may consider that as part of this theoretical background that I have given.
Yes. Wow. Definitely learned something there.
Although it was widely reported by several platforms several credible platforms. I mean, he's refuted it, fine. Yes. But several credible platforms have reported on this issue.
If you don't understand sarcasm,
no, it's not sarcasm. No, I'm telling you about a subject that I
know it's a subject
I've done a lot of research into.
So, but as a governor, if you become a governor, you will.
No, the living and the dead, must have this.
As a governor, will you project or renovating cemetery?
Okay. We'll cut this conversation short.
I know, I'm not saying, but as a governor, will you be able to show off that you are renovating cemetery?
We'll cut this short. And now, let's head to Abuja, where in a new speech, Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Benjamin Kalu, is encouraging women to remain united because come October, the House is set to vote on key constitutional amendment bills, including the Reserved Seats for Women bill. This is a bill that wants to increase women's representation in national and state houses of assembly by carving out dedicated seats for women. So in a post on Instagram, Deputy Speaker Kalu says that Nigeria is a nation of over 220 million people, 49% of whom are women. It is therefore an issue of concern that the number of women representation remains low. I therefore urge policymakers, political parties, media, and multiple stakeholders, irrespective of culture, tradition, religion, to see beyond the present and commit to a future where our democracy truly reflects our strength and diversity of our people. So he's referring to the fact that out of the 469 seats in the National Assembly, just 20 of them are held by women right now, which is about 4%. So according to the Deputy Speaker, this bill aligns with the renewed hope agenda of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He's called on women's groups to reach out to relevant stakeholders to help move it forward. So I'll put this next topic to you, Vimbai. What is standing out to you here? And let's also discuss the feasibility of a bill like this, because October is basically around the corner.
Yeah, but, well, gosh, where do we begin? I think that there's nothing unfeasible about this bill. This is a feasible bill if the political will exists to get it done. If we could pass a bill for a new national anthem in 24 hours, there's no reason why we can't pass a bill that empowers women with reserved seats to ensure that we meet the global benchmark for female representation in elected offices. However, when we now start tagging it the Renewed Hope Agenda bill, there's concerns around that, because when this administration were campaigning, they promised us 30%, was it 30 or 35% seats of appointments would be reserved for women. We're yet to meet that benchmark. So I have concerns about, us politicizing this process. However, whatever the case may be, this is a noble cause. And truly women, not just women, he for she also need to come together to ensure that this is passed. Because when you look at what's happening in the rest of the world, just here in Africa, you look at Rwanda, you look at Kenya, you look at South Africa, even Zimbabwe adheres to reserved seats for elected women. It's extremely important. Now, what will then happen with regards to getting these women into the political space is another conversation we need to have. Yes, women have become much more financially empowered than we have been in a very long time. But the question is the playing field going to be the same as the men's playing field, where it's more of a money game, it's a resource game, where we see that it's brutish, it's violent, it's tough. I remember we had Senator Florence Itegiwa come and speak on this bill because she's one of the people who's advocating for it. However, she still came down to the fact that, okay, how is it going to be any different when we look at godfatherism, when we look at the way our politics is done, especially when the election season comes about? Are we still going to get the best of the women coming in? Will they be prepared to get in and get dirty and go through the processes that men go through? So that still stands to be seen. However, that's a decision for women to make. I think the reserved seats should be there. We should continue to advocate for it. We should continue to stick together. We should move away and evolve from, the narrative used to be women are our own worst enemies. Sometimes when you interact with a woman, if you comment on her lipstick, and you say, what lipstick is that? She'll be like, I don't know. This is how competitive women can be with one another. It's good that we're migrating from that narrative, and we're now going to a place where we can stand together as a solid block. Mm-hmm. Recently in the Senate, we saw an incident with Senator Natasha, and it was unfortunate that we didn't see the women stand together. Mm. It was sad to see, because there's just 3 of them in that house, and yes, whether she was wrong or right is a different instance, but we would have at least expected the women to stand together in that moment. So I hope that even with these elected reserved seats, we can still see a degree of unity amongst the women.
One of the major issues in Nigerian politics is affirmative action from women. And since Beijing, and Beijing +5, and Beijing +10, Nigeria has been paying lip service to the empowerment of women. At a point, the PDP said they were going to give free forms to women. But other countries in Africa have done better than Nigeria in terms of affirmative action. Namely, Senegal, which is leading, Rwanda, South Africa, Malawi, and, South Africa. I've mentioned South Africa and other countries that, provide whether 15% or 20% for purposes of affirmative action. Now in Nigeria, a federal high court, ahead of the 2023 election, ruled in favor of Nigerian women. Do you know that the Nigerian government to date has refused to respect the ruling of the court? And now ahead of 2027 election, we're talking about affirmative action, reserving seats for women. I think the principle that people must understand is that Nigerian women constitute about 50% of the population of this country. And they have proven their mettle, either during the Abarayot or before then or after, in terms of contribution to this country. And they deserve to be properly integrated into the decision-making process in Nigeria, either at the private level or at the public level. Most recently, the ironic indication is that the women are doing very well in football. They just won 10 titles. They are doing well in basketball. They just won 7 titles. The men that we sent to Zanzibar to go and play football, they lost yesterday to Senegal. So women deserve their due in this country.
They will not collect money, don't worry. The men don't forget their own. Please, go ahead. You lose Ogbowoni, you are not collecting money.
All right, now for a milestone. Today we are remembering Dr. Doyin Abiola, who passed away late yesterday evening at the age of 82. Dr. Abiola was the wife of the late Chief MKO Abiola. She was the former managing director and publisher of National Concord, and was also the first Nigerian woman to be an editor of a national Nigerian newspaper. She often used soft power to mobilize resources far and near, supported those in need, and was a recipient of multiple awards. With a career at the National Concord spanning 3 decades, her impact on the industry is still felt to this day. May her soul rest in peace. We'll take one more milestone and then we'll talk about it. So, all week we've been talking a lot about football. We've been talking about sports, you know, our sporting greats and how the women have been showing up for the past week and their back-to-back wins. But this week is actually around the same time that 31 years ago, the Super Eagles, our men's football team, won Olympic gold. So we're about to show you some of the images from that historic match at the Atlanta Olympics in 1996. At this match, Nigeria became the first ever African country to win football gold at the Olympics. They even beat out Argentina and Brazil. To this day, this moment is still considered one of Nigeria's best football achievements in history. So do we have any time to, you know, briefly discuss these 2 milestones?
Yes.
Losing Okay.
Yes, real quickly. As regards Mama Doyin Abiola, Dr. Doyin Abiola, best of memories. You see, what is formative is that she held her own at the highest height of journalism in this country. And she was a first-rated journalist even before she married MK Abiola. And this is a reaction to the point I think Dr. Bata was making, you know, that maybe, you know, Vimba, you marry first, you become first lady and all of that. For me, I'm a big feminist. And the truth is, I like women that hold their own any day, any time. Doyin Abiola was successful in media and would be successful anyway, even if she didn't marry MK Abiola. She was already a success in her own right. So, and that's the kind of strength she brought to the newsroom, and the Concord newspaper till date still holds a very reputable place in the history of journalism. I mean, you can see products of Concord everywhere. And that's what she stood for. And she was also a very supportive wife, you know, to her husband. And I remember the day in '96 when we won. Oh my God, 2 a.m. in the morning, we're all out on the street dancing, celebrating. That celebration I'll never forget. People did not ask what tribe or place were you from. That day, we're all Nigerians. And we celebrated and we did so well. And that's the essence of this Nigerian spirit and unity we should all come together for.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much, Annie. I think we've run out of time.
We have.
But all the subjects are well appointed. Thank you very much indeed.